Welcome to the Founderville.vc podcast. This is episode number 6, and I'm super excited today to have Mr. Marty Osborn of By Design Advisors. Marty is also a noted author and now a public speaker, and certainly more than any person I've ever met an expert on personality testing, working genius, X-profile, DISC profiles, whatever you want to call them. Marty uses them more than anybody, and I honestly think the key, probably one of the keys to the success that you've had, particularly building Advoco, was leveraging those tools.
Yeah.
So welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks. It's great to be here. As always, hanging with you guys. You guys are my peeps, man. We're all been in the mud, slinging away, trying to make it in the entrepreneurial world, and I think we've come out on top, and now it's fun to share what we learned.
Doesn't always feel that way. Sometimes it feels like I'm on the struggle bus every day.
Yeah. Well, even after selling the company and taking some time off, and I laugh. I say this to people, and they probably get mad, but I say once you retire, every day's Saturday.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the downside of that is there's not that feeling, or waking up in the morning like, why am I here today? And so I think as entrepreneurs, that whatever we do, we still want to wake up with purpose and drive, and whether it was building a business or helping somebody, I don't think we ever get away from that.
Yeah, over time, every day becomes the same kind of day. It's like, I've talked to people sometimes like, why do you answer emails and stuff on Saturday or Sunday? It's like, I didn't know it was Saturday or Sunday. It's just a day. I get up in the morning, do the same thing. It's like, what I do?
What do I do? Yeah. That's what I do.
I wake up, I look at my email at work. I just start thinking. I can't turn it off. Yeah. Well, you've had quite the career. I mean, you spent a lot of time in the corporate world for a while, well before going into your full-on entrepreneurial
Well, I actually did start in the entrepreneurial world.
Let me hear this story, because you were saying that earlier. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was a student at Clemson. I was getting ready, senior year. You're trying to figure out what to do. I was never
was
really.
Was this 1947 or 48?
46, I don't know, 32. We're just getting out of the war. And, but it was back when 1984. And I wasn't the best student. Like being that student wasn't me. So I wasn't going to get that prime job out. And so I remember trying to hustle and meet people. And I was at a pig roast with a friend of mine, and I would sit out at night just talking to guys about job. And one guy's like, hey, do you want to come help work while you're going to school? And I said, sure. So I would drive to Greenville 3 days a week and I'd pick up the phone, I would get the industrial directory, and we didn't really have a product. We were trying to figure it out. This guy was trying to figure out what to do. And so I had this line like, my name is Marty Osborn, and I'm with Texas Instruments, and we're in the area doing demonstrations. Would you like one? No, click. No, click. No, click.
Smiling and dialing.
Smiling and dialing. And then, one day we hit on, somebody's like, well, I'm looking for this, system that could help me in my apparel business. We're like, what? And then we'd say, tell me more. And then the next call is, my name is Marty Osborn, Texas. We have an apparel set. And just modified the script.
Yeah, of course.
And then next thing you know, I'd get another one. And literally we started writing code, and we built a product because we saw this need just that I stumbled on. And so in the early days, we wrote an incentive-based payroll system for garment manufacturers. It was my original out of school for about 12 years.
I remember you told me the story one time about the shirt.
Oh, dear God.
I remember this.
We don't have to go there yet.
Well, the funny part is it's probably the entrepreneur. People always say about entrepreneurs, what is it that makes them successful? And I think the good ones find problems, and that we become obsessed with solving the problem. Because if you're not in love with the problem or solving that problem, the money, the work will never make it. And so we just get obsessed. And so I was chasing again, dialing for dollars. It was a plant in Pickens, South Carolina, and I was trying to sell him software. And the guy goes, God, I would love to buy from you. He goes, but our company's in bankruptcy and they're going to sell off the plant. And I was like, wow. I said, Could a guy like me buy the plant? I'm 32 years old. I got no money. And the guy goes, I don't know. It's out of Greensboro. He goes, here's the number. Go call him. So I call the guy up and he says, yeah, come up and you can get a bid package. So I go up there and we get a bid package for this shirt company. And we put like a consortium of like 7 people together, raised some money, and literally put it in and won it. Like, sometimes the dog catches the bus. And so, for a while there, we were running a software company, running a shirt factory that used our software as a demo site. And it was good for a while, but then nobody wants to sew in the United States. Right. Apparel didn't want to be here. BMW opens up, and that one didn't end too well. Yeah, that was it.
Well, we all have those experiences.
Yeah.
Fortunately or unfortunately, I think it's fortunate to some degree that we go through that type of meat grinder. But you always kind of want to forget those too.
The more failures you have along the way, the more likely you are to find success.
You are. And I think, again, as entrepreneurs, when we're out there, like as we're doing things, we start to learn. Like even at the time, there was a big thing like EDI that came along. Yeah. And we had a client who made T-shirts for JCPenney's, and he would ship 25,000 or 25,000 dozen of shirts to JCPenney's one warehouse. And one day they said, you no longer get an order for 25,000. You now get 25,000 orders and you have to ship to all the stores.
Oh my God.
And this guy's like, how am I going to do that? We're like, here's a problem. And we started creating a whole EDI system and based on the PCs. And there was another company we were competing against. There was this little company called Manhattan and Associates. Oh, yeah. And they were about $20 million. And I'm like, I want to be like that. But I could never get my other partners to agree. And we ended up exiting in Manhattan's worth $2 billion today. I don't know, some stupid number. Yeah. But there are opportunities all over if you keep your eye, and again, the belief in how can we help a client solve a problem.
Yeah, I agree with you on the falling in love with it. And it doesn't have to be something every single time that if you were to analyze it, there's a problem that you go, oh, I'm going to love that problem. But once you get in it, you have to have that passion for solving it.
Yeah.
Like I think I can, and I can connect to the problem in a way that gives you that drive and motivation because, man, there's some hard times along the way when you're trying to solve it.
There are. And, it's interesting because as we get into like accelerator programs and we meet like people or founders and so forth, my favorite question is, why this? Like, why are you trying to solve this problem? And what I really want to see is, do their eyes light up? Now. Is this some reason that they want to solve it? Because when things get hard, they will do anything to solve it. And so I think that's a big question for entrepreneurs is if you're in it trying for the money or I can code this or I think I can resell this, I think you're going to struggle. But the really good ones, and I know especially in the Founder Bill portfolio, if you look at what we and you guys invest in as this portfolio is there are companies there that all have this passion towards solving a problem. And I really feel like that's a cornerstone to the people you guys see.
You're right. That is that founder that has that spark. Yep. And it sounds corny, right? How do you recognize spark when you see it? But you know it when you see it.
Yeah.
Well, we had, Thomas Strange. It's so funny you say that because we had Thomas Strange on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. And it was literally about that. One of the comments he made, it was like, I saw a problem.
Yeah.
I wanted to solve this problem because I knew I could do it better. And he became so passionate about it. And like
he was offended that it was so stupid.
Yeah.
That somebody hadn't done it already. He's like, how can this be?
Yeah. And those are the beautiful ideas. And you're right. Like, a box sitting outside in the element with the permits. You have a 50-50 chance that thing's ever going to survive a couple weeks, right? And the fact that it's digital, it's like
pretty simple.
Yeah, right. So
you and I shared a long history together at DataStream and got to work together. And then you saw something that sparked, something, and that you became very passionate about solving. Tell us a little bit about how you got the inspiration for Advoco. And then what was that stepping off point that you hit where you said, I'm going to do this and I think I can?
Yeah. By the way, it's always a great question is what causes somebody who has a job
right. Yeah.
Right.
My point exactly.
To step off. Right. Like what is it? It's like the boat that you're trying to get on and it's getting away from the dock and you're like, when we were at DataStream, one of the things is we ran the products group and so forth. Yep. We created one of the best products. It solved the needs, it worked, and there was a desire. What always frustrated me is we'd go with these products, and then customers would call me and say, well, why doesn't your product do this or that? And I was like, it does.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the services group got lazy.
Yeah.
They didn't want to do the work. And it just, you get so frustrated. Like, we designed this product to do exactly what you want it to do, and it wouldn't do it. And so then once we got acquired, there was sort of that inflection point that really says kind of put up or shut up, right? I knew that there was a need for helping customers solve a problem. I knew I could do it. And so it just sort of said, why not me?
Yeah, yeah. What was the moment where you said, I'm going to burn the boat, I'm bailing on this thing?
By the way, everybody knows this, remembers their story. And I'll never forget, I was in Minnesota and I was at a meeting with the CEO and the head of sales and another guy, and they were talking about something we had to do in the product that was absolutely stupid. It made no sense. It wasn't getting us to our goal. And I sat there and I said, I can't do this anymore. Right. This is stupid. And I kept trying to explain, this is not moving. This is not our problem. Yeah. This does not help our customers.
So your domain knowledge was super high.
Yeah.
Your product knowledge was super high, but your understanding of the customer was off the charts high, right? Mm-hmm. You knew what was there. And so where do you think the confidence came from in your personality? And again, back to he knows his numbers. He knows all his numbers. What was that thing that sort of spurred to say, I'm confident enough? Because there's a lot of people that feel like I'm sitting in a meeting and these people are all not getting it. Mm-hmm. But there's not many people who say, I'm going to do something.
I'm going to do it. I always, it's funny, you go back to what is it that does it. I always, my whole life was, I guess, and it's going to sound really weird, is if you psychoanalyze, I've always wanted to be loved and I wanted to be around people, and I've always liked customers. I always liked selling. And actually, when I came to the DataStream, I was on the sales side. Yeah. And actually, your wife, Courtney, was they knew they needed a product manager, and she said, the customer, the scenario, you need to be the product manager. And I'm like, I know nothing about products, nothing. She's like, no, you can do this. You can do this. I'm like, no, I'm a sales guy. And they said, no, that's exactly what we need. Because if you think about product management, it isn't the bits and the bytes and that you've got a technical team to do it. Yeah. What they wanted was the voice of the customer, and that was my expertise.
It's so that empathy.
Empathy,
you have to have that empathy of the user.
Yeah. So, again, it drove me crazy when people come and say, well, why can't you do this? Or we've been told it can't do that. And I'm like, we designed it to absolutely do those kind of things, or we'll figure it out.
So for the people who don't know the Advoco story, give us the 2-minute version of the bang and the exit.
Yeah, the big thing was, I always said, back to your thing is sometimes you have a Jerry Maguire moment. Yeah. Right? Yep. That we had gotten bought by the big company, the big behemoth. They stopped caring about the customers, the employees, and you just are like, this is wrong. Yeah. And I literally wrote my manifesto that said, we're going to love our employees, love our customers, and we're going to go do this right. And a bunch of people were going to come with me. And when I walked out the door, they all backed out. They got too scared. Wow. And so I literally had my plan, my manifesto. I walked out by myself.
Yeah,
and it was just that I believed that we could do this, how we do this. And so that was kind of the defining moment of building a company that I always said, I want to build a company I want to work for that is based on love, right? Living our values every day. And so that became the impetus to getting it started. And I think once we got out there and people heard we were doing this stuff, they started calling saying, hey, can you help us? I got this problem.
Give me some love.
Give me some love. Yeah. I mean, we had a client, a huge chip company, and literally I got a call and the guy says, I got a problem. I can't even go in my own plants because the software doesn't do what it's supposed to do, and everybody's pissed. And he said, well, can you do something? I said, I don't know. Let me go see it. So I went up to I was one of the only guys that said, I don't know if I can solve your problem. Let me go to Charlotte. I went there and I watched it. He calls me up and says, what do you think? And I go, this sucks. He goes, you think?
It's a good sales approach.
Typical consultant.
Right.
You got a big problem.
You got a problem.
You are all messed up.
Fortunately, you have me now.
Yeah, because they threw like Six Sigma at product, they did everything, but nobody stood back and looked at the problem from a different angle and how to automate stuff. Because the software, it was 22 steps. They wanted to go pick up a truck that was being towed. It was 22 steps.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah, nobody's going to like that. And I was like, I can do that in 4 notes. And what we did is behind the scenes, we just automated all the processes that you created a requisition, you approved it, and it created the work order and it did everything and literally cut it down. And it was so funny. I'll never forget this. He goes, this was like September, and he goes, you have to solve this problem by December 3rd. Why December 3rd? He goes, because it's my review. And if I don't solve it, I'm getting fired.
Oh, nice.
So they're talking about skin and I like skin in the game. And the product went and what started as like a $200K product turned into $25 million worth of work. Because once you solve somebody's problem, you're friends for life.
You build trust.
You build trust.
They know you can do it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was kind of the start. And then we just started taking off and we were growing so fast. And, one of the challenges too is where do you find people? And everybody's like, oh, we can't find any people. There's no good people out there. We're like, we're looking in the right places. And we started tapping into like Clemson University. We started tapping into their industrial engineering program. And we just figured, you know what? It's time to grow the right talent. And so we built training programs and literally within, 7 years, we went from 5 people to close to 125 people, scaling up, delivering excellence, clients who signed deals never let us go. And so really that became the impetus for how we did it. And then eventually, you do it so well, a competitor says, I want to take you out.
Somebody comes knocking.
That's the
And
best.
they come knocking, and sometimes the offer's too good to turn down.
Yeah. The thread there of growing your own, I think, that's not a thing that most people will do. Most people think, I got to go find somebody that has exactly the skills I need that I can hire. Forget the character quality of the person. I just need somebody with SQL skills or UI skills or whatever. But you had the foresight to invest with a long vision of I'm going to hire young and grow my own. And to me, I mean, that's I'd love you to chat a little bit about how you did that, not just the recruiting at Clemson, but the knowing the profile of the person and what they needed to grow as a human. Yeah,
what we always found is, and I'm still a little bit of a contrarian, like I always think about things in different light, and to me was everybody starts to hire for the skill, but when you hire that skill or that senior person, they come with their own ways of doing things. And for us, it wasn't sort of what we believed or the Advoca way. And so when we found like young people in the technology world, like they just get it. Like old people like us, we struggle. These young people, they get it. And so the thing wasn't to find the technical skills, it was the people skills. And so what we looked for was not like maintenance experience, software experience. What we looked for is characteristics that said they were hungry, they were humble, and they were smart.
I love that.
And if we could get those 3 components, we were going to set it. And one of the ways to do, well, there's 2 things. And this is something I think every entrepreneur and everybody is going to cringe when I say this. And I learned this the hard way is as owners, and we suck at hiring. We really are bad because we don't hire for what we need. We hire for what we envision, and then we sort of hope that person has it. Oh, they're a great person, and we hire them in 1 or 2 interviews. Well, I learned from going to some training is to slow down. And we went from minimal interviews to 15 interviews. To get hired at Advoca was 15 interviews. Now, that's not 15 visits, but you will talk to 15 people. And what we found was the people that weren't the right fit dropped out. I mean, people come to us and say, I got 3 job offers. I need to know what's going on. And we said, look, we understand that. We appreciate it. maybe that's not the right fit. You should take the other offers. Because we wanted you on our mission, not your mission.
Sure.
And so when we slowed down, it changed the caliber of people that we wanted. The second thing we did, and we talked about personality testing, like I'm addicted to this, but it's understanding what people crave as individuals and what crushes them. And putting the, what is it? Jim Collins says, get the right people in the right seat on the bus. It doesn't say what right is.
Right.
And so to me, we started doing the DISC profile, which starts to understand like how they are on detail, how they make decisions. And then we do something else called the working genius, which then really highlights what people crave and crushes them. And when we started to piece those together, it also let us sit down with people and interview we thought was good, and we found there wasn't a fit based on it, and we would explain it to them, and they would be like, that's probably not the right job for me. So we might even part ways in an interview with both parties happy and people thanking us like, thank you for not giving me that job. Because it is a two-way street. So to me, the one word that always stuck out that I think every entrepreneur needs is, my favorite is intentionality, which is why we have a company called By Design, is when we hire, everything needs to be by design. Why did we hire that person? What was the processes that we did? And so to me, and I use this, if you have 5 people and one of your hires is bad, right? That's 20% of your team is bad. And so even more when you're small, hiring is so important.
Much
People
bigger
are.
impact in the early days.
Yeah.
1 out of 100 is 1%, right? It's like, it doesn't change it.
It doesn't move the needle, but when you do it at that low level, and again, I think the other challenge is in the startup world, and one of the things that I think we can bring to like any portfolio company is that discipline, because, they get this check.
Yeah.
And, I heard the greatest line that a check is not success. It's a countdown clock. Right?
In the startup world, it is for sure.
In the startup world is. And so what do? They get the check. They get all excited. We got to get bodies. We got to get bodies. They go hire 5 people really fast. And then a year later, they're like,
misfire.
Yeah.
What did we do? And you can't replay that. You can't stop. So it's hard for people to slow down, but you sometimes have to go down. You have to go slow to go fast. And so that was at the core of what we did. And I mean, at one point, 60% of our workforce was under 30. And think about that. And we had less than 1% turnover.
Wow, that's unreal.
So it can be done.
In the consulting industry, that's typically 25%.
Is 25% annually.
25% annually.
But at some point in time, they have to be on your mission, not theirs.
I want to come back to that real quick because you said the words that I knew you would eventually get to, the Advoco way. And that's not just personality testing. That was culture. And one of the things that impressed me so much in your creation of this thing is that you, again, intentionality, you set out to build culture. You didn't let culture just happen.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about just building culture and what that means.
Well, it's interesting. Somebody says, well, tell me about your culture. And it's not like it's in the drawer. You can't pull it out. Culture is really how people feel.
Yeah.
Right? So how we treat people, how we handle people. One of my favorite stories is we used to get a bunch of we get co-op students. And 2 co-op students were sitting outside my office, and a buddy of mine walked in, and I introduced him to the 2 co-op students, and he says, hey, nice to meet you. Do you guys like working here? And I go, we love working here. And he's like, whoa, like that's a strong word. And he goes, what is it that you love about it? And he said, or these 2 guys said, because they let us do our job. They don't treat us, put us in the box. They put us in real world, and they let us solve problems, and they support us. And if we fall down, they pick us up.
Yeah,
and so to me, that's like culture is. And I'll say this, and I'll give Scott props for this. When we were growing the company, one of the things that I would come sit with you, and you were a little bit you're probably 3 years ahead of me. And I always said, you would teach me, I'm like, what do I do about real estate? What do I do about this? And you'd coach me. And one day I was sitting in your office and I was asking you all kinds of questions. What about this? What about that? And you just kind of looked at me and just shook your head and said, Marty, you know what your problem is? I go, no, what? You go, you're the problem. And I was like, how the hell am I the problem? I'm like the guy. Like, I'm the guy.
The man.
And you said, no, you got to stop doing all this.
Yeah.
You have got to stop thinking you're the answer. You have to build your team. If you're ever going to be
that's
successful.
It is hard. It was so hard for me to let go because I have this vision and perfection and like if I did it, it would be like this. To let that go. And I think you're right. I'd probably run into that wall maybe 24 months before you did, realizing like if it's all on me, it ain't ever going to go anywhere.
No, we'll only be as big as ourselves. And I think as entrepreneurs, we start to think that. Yeah. And it was what I needed to hear, and I needed to be called out. And so I go back to my office, and I'm like, okay, I can't do it. And I literally shut my door, and like I sat there for like a week, and I didn't do anything. And I'm twiddling my thumbs. I don't want to pick up the phone and make a call. I want to go help somebody. Right. And I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it. You're the problem. You're the problem. And what happened was in that when people saw that and they said I had faith in them to do their jobs, man, that's one. I mean.
Well, I'll tell you, since you gave me props, I'm going to give Gerber and eMyth props because his model of eMyth, of build it as a franchise, and if you're still the linchpin of it, it's not a franchise. Somebody else has got to be able to run it if you disappeared. And my goal was always to disappear. I'm like, I want to be out of this thing. Yeah. I want to be as I want the business to be as independent as possible of me as a personality or me as a leader or manager. Yeah. Doesn't mean you disappear completely from creating culture, but you're not doing the day-to-day task. Stuff. You're not the firefighter.
Right. We get into strategy. We would get into those kind of things. And I'll tell you, this is another kind of funny story is, Data Stream, like every software company, you have President's Club and the best, right? Salespeople go off to these lavish trips and we take care of all of them. And it pissed me off. Now, maybe it pissed me off because I was the product manager doing all this work and I didn't get to go. Right? So,
Truth be told.
Truth be told. But what I really believe is that we either all win together, we either all eat steak or we all eat burgers or whatever. And so we were sitting around, I was thinking about it, and we're trying to figure out how to grow the company. And we might have been 30, 40 people at the time. And we came up with the idea that said, we're going to set the goal at 20% for the company. If we hit that goal, we will shut the office down and take the whole company to the Caribbean. And we just said it at the Christmas party, next year we grow 20%. That place about came unglued. They're all like, yeah, we're going. And I remember halfway the year, we blew through our number by August.
Wow.
And I remember talking to, and we took employees, spouses, significant others. Everybody. And I remember talking to one of the spouses. I said, I'm so sorry, Josh is working on the road. She goes, I don't care. We're going to the Caribbean.
Love it.
And I have legendary pictures of the whole company in the pool, dancing to music, foam bubbles
That's intentional culture. Right?
It was.
And it was so fantastic.
It was, and people talk about it even to this day. Yeah. And there was a year we didn't make our number, and we took a bus to Nashville. It wasn't bad, but we're not going to the Caribbean. That's right. And so those kind of things that just says we win together, we lose together. Mm-hmm. It's not about me, it's about we. And once you do that, cool things happen.
Yeah, a lot of ability to let your ego go, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I even used to write too is the hard part, even leaders or whatever, is when you let go, there's this well, what am I going to do? I'm not going to be needed. I remember my CIO, his hands were in everything. I'm like, dude, you have got to stop.
Yeah.
And he said, if I don't do this, what do you need me for? I'm like, dude, I need you to here. I need you up here. I don't need you down here. But that's, as leaders, if we're still thinking about me, then I even can't help my team think about we. So
I remember I had a board member, Walter Alessandrini. He ran Pirelli Cable. So he had 15,000 employees across the world, multiple plants, and toughest board member I've ever had for sure. But to your point, he said, look, your goal as CEO is to be able to walk in the office and be able to like sit at your desk and essentially put your feet on the desk and read the Wall Street Journal.
Right.
He said that's your goal. He goes, you would never do that, but that's what you want to have from your management team. And the only way you can empower them is to let go.
Yeah.
The same thing. It's like, how do I do this?
Work your way out of the
How do I
job,
literally
right.
do this?
Right.
Because it feels so uncomfortable to not know what every little thing is going on.
Yeah.
But that's human nature.
Think about your earlier statement on falling in love with the problem, right? And so you exited, great exit. You had that opportunity to literally kick back with absolutely nothing. Take retirement, hang out, and yet your curiosity led you to do another.
Correct.
Right? What's the problem that you're looking to solve there, other than staying out of the house and staying busy so Lisa doesn't kill you?
Yeah. Well, that's always the big thing.
What is it? What'd you learn that you're now trying to solve? What problem captivated you enough to say, I'm going to go do this again?
Yeah. So one of the things that we started to get into was when we looked at selling the business. When we had enough revenue, I didn't have anybody really to talk to, right? Entrepreneurship is it's a lonely business. And so when you're thinking about, do I grow? Do I sell? You don't really know what to do. And so what do? We turn to investment bankers. We turn to business brokers. And they're all transactionally focused. And you're not going to really find out what happens. And Jay, we have this conversation, right? Everybody loves to try to get your money, so they get you to the table with the LOI called the
non-binding letter of non-committal.
And so we get these LOI, we get all excited, but we don't really understand value in our business. We don't understand what drives value. And so to me, there was just nobody advocating for the entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Nobody was there telling me, I get my first LOI, and I look at it and I was like, we're excited. Like somebody loves me, somebody wants me. And then, I start to do the math and I said, well, I split this, my two partners. Uncle Sam's a partner in the equation. He takes it. And I'm like, well, shit, I can't retire on that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what do I got to do to get a bigger number? And nobody did it, when really it was just where our EBIT was and where our profits were, that if I could get it to a certain level, then I could get more money, which was right. And so we turned down our first offer.
Yeah.
One of my partners was like, he was pissed, like, how dare you? Like, this is the dream. And I'm like, no, we still have more in us. And so to me, I want to go back and help entrepreneurs sit down and understand where they are. What's their value? Just, again, it's simple back of the math, like how to understand value. And what we found was that 80% of a owner's net worth tied up in the business, yet 80% never transact because they don't know. And the other 80 rule is that 80% of a company's value is not on the balance sheet. It's not there. Yeah. So what is it, right? It's social capital. It's systems. Yeah. It's your customers. And it's your people. Yeah. And so what we do is can sit down with an owner and he thinks he's the hero of the story he's in and he's telling you how proud he is. If you're in the business, nobody's going to buy you. They want to buy your business. So we have to get the owners out. If you have I had one customer, one guy was in this meeting, a software company, he's like, we're about to lose one of our biggest accounts. And I'm like, so how much revenue are you going to lose? He said about 60% of it. I said, oh, dear God. Wow. Now, one is nobody's going to buy that company.
Nobody's going to buy that business. Right.
Nobody's buying that. And they didn't think about that. And they get all excited that they have that. And so to me, to be able to sit down with an owner and help coach them to look at, is their business ready? Is it attractive? And put at least a roadmap in place. So that was just, I just felt like nobody's there for them. And so that was kind of, could I help show the way?
This model is advisement on the seller side, the selling side, business owners, and what they can do to plan, envision having some success, whether it's next year or 5 years or 10 years in the future.
Right. Yeah. It's just helping them understand value and roadmaps, and that if you put a value in your head, whatever it is, we call it, if you want to sell for 10 million and we think it's 4, well, you have a profit gap of 6 million. We got to figure out how to give that roadmap. And so that's where it's just, I think nobody's educating business owners on that piece. And what happens is, and you've seen it over and over again when it comes to valuations, people don't understand and
it's all over the map.
It's terrible.
It's all over the map. And, it's part of the conversation early days we have with founders who oftentimes read things in the news or, read TechCrunch, or they're reading something that they think is relevant to their business. And we see enough patterns to understand them in a way that founders get a little bit myopic. Of course, everybody's proud of their business and they think it's, something here. And you don't want to be Debbie Downer on a guy who's got a good thing going, but a lot of times you do have to have that sort of dose of reality.
Yeah,
and you can oftentimes you see that flash of realization, that comes over. It's like, well, I'm a long way from that. We had a funny side story. We had somebody reach out not too long ago who had a referral where it was described as, well, I've got a great idea. All I need is a product, some customers, and some funding, and I'm ready to sell. It's like, so I'm going to refer them to you as they're ready to go.
Have fun with that one.
Have you ever heard of a do loop?
It was literally, I kept the email. I'm like, wow, that's a good sales
exciting.
call.
Yeah.
I'm pumped on this one.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny to me, entrepreneurship it's like pushing a train up a hill, like when you're in a startup mode.
Yeah.
And if you lose any momentum, that train's coming back.
Roll you over.
And so understanding the people side, the social side, I mean, it's just really important for people to get a grasp of that. And so if we can help educate people make better decisions, understand at least where they stand, then I think they're in the right mindset to advance it. So
I think we're fortunate to have you in our ecosystem here and being part of Next as a board member and being part of giving to founders that are in Greenville and being a part of the fund. We really appreciate that. Proud of what you're doing in the next chapter, and wish you all the success in the world. I know it'll be fantastic.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad to be a part of what you guys, because it's not easy what you guys do and to bring reality back. But I mean, I think the portfolio companies that you've invested in are, they have such bright futures, and watching them grow, and they're never overnight, right? Everybody thinks that I'm overnight success,
overnight's only 10 years long.
That's right.
And so, I mean, it's been great working with you guys, and I can't wait to see. And, with the new accelerator program you guys have coming, again, we always said, somebody asked us, what makes you special and what makes us different, like at By Design, we say we do the do. Yeah. Like everybody wants to give you a list of things to do. Everybody wants to tell you what to do. We actually do the do. And I think that's what this is all about, is with Founderville, is you help people do the do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
roll up the sleeves and get in there.
Right.
We
and
get,
that's
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
We get dirty with them. Yeah, we get dirty with them. No, there's no doubt. I mean, I think as we build out the residence program, as we bring these companies into Greenville, as we collectively build them, as we fund them, having folks like you as part of the fund, but more important as part of the community, to help these founders is invaluable. It is absolutely invaluable, and we look forward to, bringing you in and for you to be a part of it. And I don't know if we can pay you, and I hope you understand.
It's all right here.
Yeah.
I know.
Lots
of love.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much. Appreciate you coming out. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Marty Osborn, thank you for joining the Founderville.vc podcast.